Hey friends, welcome back to Big Nate's Whiskey Lounge. I am Corson Nate, coming at you with my first Irish video. I am a big fan of Irish whiskey, and my favorite Irish whiskey brand is Redbreast. I have in front of me the 12-year as well as the 12-year cask strength. The 12-year coming in at 40% alcohol, which is pretty typical for entry-level Irish whiskeys, and then the 12-year cask strength comes in at 56.3% alcohol, so a bit of a jump there. Both of these are single pot still Irish whiskeys. Real quick, I'm going to just explain the 4 different categories of Irish whiskey. I'm using this Whiskey Advocate magazine that I got about 6 months ago, and this edition was really all about Irish whiskey, and it helped explain because I didn't know either. So there are 4 distinct Irish whiskey methods. The first is single malt. That is 100% malted barley. It is distilled in a pot still, the big fat copper stills, and then it's made at one single distillery. A single pot still, which is what Redbreast is grains. It has at least 30% malted barley and also 30% unmalted barley, and then there's up to 5% of a different grain. The unmalted barley is kind of interesting. So back in the day, I don't know exactly when this was, part of the reason why the single pot still exists was kind of a screw you to the government. There was some tariffs and taxes on malted barley, and so Ireland's like, okay, fine, then we're going to put a percentage of unmalted barley in there, and it's going to lower our cost on resources. So that's how single pot still came to be. Also distilled in a pot still, the big fat pot still, and made it a single distillery. Then there's single grain, which is its whole unmalted cereals with up to 30% malted barley. That's in a column still, which is those bigger, the very thinner column still, which is pretty typical in America. And it's also made at one distillery. So, and then there is blended Irish whiskey. This is grains of any of the above combinations that we mentioned. It can be a pot or a column still, and can be made at a single distillery or multiple distilleries. So just to recap, these are single pot stills, which has at least 30% malted barley and at least 30% unmalted barley, and then up to 5% of some other grain, distilled in a copper pot still and made from one distillery. Now these, like I mentioned, Redbreast is my favorite Irish distillery. Well, I should say whiskey. It's distilled by Middleton, who also makes Jameson and the Spots. I have a bottle of Green Spot behind me. Powers. The distillery Middleton is pretty much, at least up until recent history, it was the dominant Irish distillery, and at one point it was the only. And there's some really cool history behind that. I recommend checking out the Whiskey Vault, Whiskey Tribe. They do some really cool history on it. But just as far as looking up ratings for the Redbreast here, I'm looking at the 2021 version of Jim Murray's Whiskey Bible. And he has 2 different versions of the 12 in here. Neither one of the ones I have in front of me. But he rated one of them at an 88.5 and then the other one at a 93. And then he also has 2 different cask strengths in here. One of them he rated at 96 and the other one he rated at 95.5. So pretty decent high ratings for this. Again, I'm a big fan. So let's get into the 12 here. Now, just to read this off here, triple distilled and matured in the finest oak cask. It's got sherry in it. So I want to go back to their site. And so the 12 is what they call their signature bottling. Redbreast 12 boasts the flavor, complexity, and distinctive qualities of pot still whiskey, matured in a combination of bourbon and sherry casks. The distinctive Redbreast sherry style is a joy to behold in, okay, whatever. So this is both bourbon and sherry casks. Fruitiness on it. Kind of, again, it's a little thin on the nose. Again, I am using a Kenzie glass, which is not the best for getting a nose out of. But being 40%, there's not much to it. Little bit of spice, just a little bit of malt funk. I tend to get apple on Irish whiskeys. The green spot behind me, I get it on a lot. I realize I'm blocking it right there. And as I knock over the rest of my collection. There's also a newer Irish whiskey called Buskers, and that is very apple, like it's just straight up apple juice. I'm getting a little bit of apple on this, a little bit of oakiness on it, I guess. I'm getting a hint of coconut. I believe, based on my past experiences, that I'm going to find a lot more apple on the cask strength, but all right, so it's interesting. The flavors don't really show up until the end, after I'm swallowing it. They don't really show up as I'm sipping it. There's some oakiness in there, I can get that. I mean, that's good. There's fruitiness in there. There is it's a little viscous, and that could come from the pot still. It's a little more viscous, a little more syrupy. Some fruitiness I am picking up just from doing quite a few recently. I've been doing some sherry finishes. I mean, I'm picking that up. And it does linger a little bit. It's a touch thin. Again, it's 40%, but this is such a good whiskey. This is my go-to standard Irish whiskey. It's a $70 bottle, which is you can buy cheaper, Jameson obviously, but in my opinion, it's a step up. First off, it's age stated. Jameson is not. And it's, if you have in your life a Jameson lover and you want to, and they're interested in kind of branching out a little bit, this would be a fantastic step up for them. Cheers to them. Cheers to you. Let's drink Irish. Now, at my whiskey lounge, the weekend employee there, Jeff, who I've become pretty good buddies with, he's an Irish Catholic guy. He won't drink Irish when I bring it over. I always bring a bottle of Islay Scotch for him, because that's what he'll drink. He says that if he drinks Irish whiskey, he gets mean. So I bring him Irish Scotch, or an Islay Scotch, and he's happy. Let's get into just that little hit there on the nose was a little bit more syrupy on the cask strength. I'm going to cleanse my palate a touch. Oh, wow. It's definitely more complex on the cask strength. I'm going to go to that. Oh, I passed it. So this is a $70 bottle, and that's pretty much whatever I've seen it for. I purchased this for $100. It was $99.99. Saw it at a store. It's the only time I've ever seen it before and after. So I grabbed it, and obviously I'm glad because it's the 12-year, and that's being phased out. So this is kind of becoming a rare bottle. I know people have paid a little bit less. I also know people that have paid a little bit more. So I'm okay with what I paid. And that's the biggest thing when it comes to your whiskey. A lot of people, what should I pay? Well, you should pay what you're willing to pay. Now, obviously, I would advise you against paying $2,000 for a Pappy. However, that doesn't mean a couple $100, even though MSRP is lower than that. If that's in your wheelhouse, if that's what you want, you do you. So this, I'm getting, it definitely jumps out, a little bit more syrupy, a little bit more viscous. I am getting a bit of an apricot on this, so while I do get a touch of the apple, it is more in maybe a dried apricot. Went a little deep on that nose there. That's really good. There's sweetness to it, definite some sweetness. Proof hits a little bit more on the palate, obviously, but I would not have guessed a 56%, 56.3. I would not have guessed that this was 56.3. And part of it is just because of how friendly Irish whiskey is. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people that are maybe barrel-proof bourbon lovers or maybe Islay Scotch lovers, they tend to overlook Irish, because this is very pretty. This is very different than a barrel-proof bourbon or a smoky, peaty Islay Scotch. This is very different. This is a really good treat. This is a really good break from something that's a little more hardcore. It's really cool that it's in a cask strength, because that might appeal to the people that are barrel-proof hounds, the people that really love that. So this might appeal to you, that there is a cask strength version of an Irish whiskey. And while it is going to have, there is a short breadiness to it. There's a kind of like a, see, when I think shortbread, I always think of those pecan sandies that Keebler makes. So for some reason, whenever I think that, I always feel like a dominant pecan note. And obviously there's pecan, whatever. There's not pecan in this, but I am getting a shortbreadiness to it. There's some vanilla, so it is sweet. Robust is a good way of saying it, but not robust in a kick your butt way. Just is. This is really good. So yeah, if I had to rank the two, this is a very special pour. I understand this may be the only bottle of the 12-year cask strength Redbreast that I will ever see or get. So this is a fantastic daily pour. This is a fantastic bottle. $70 might be a little bit more expensive than what you're used to for a daily pour, and I understand that. So maybe a Friday night pour, if that's what you're into. As far as this is going to be a special occasion bottle. Now there is I believe it's 27 year that some people have. You can check out Basement Bourbon Bar, Basement Bourbon Bar. He has a bottle of this, and that's a very, very special bottle. That's expensive. So obviously this is not up to there. I'm on their website. As far as range go, they go 12 cask, then 15, then Listowel. Actually they go Listowel, then 15. So it's not like this is ranked up high on their scale either. It's just a really solid pour. Let me know if you like Irish whiskey. Let me know what your favorite Irish whiskey is. A really good standard. I've mentioned before that my local bar, because it's not a bourbon bar, it's not a bar you walk in and order and eat whiskey at. My go-to is Buffalo Trace and Coke, and my backup to that is Jameson and ginger ale. So I do really like Irish whiskey, and this is just a step up from that. So get yourself a bottle of Redbreast. Enjoy your Irish whiskey. Let me know if you like Irish whiskey, what your favorite Irish whiskey is. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you on the next one. Until then, keep going with the Irish.